Conor Benn taking on former champion Regis Prograis in Tottenham on the undercard of Fury versus Makhmudov. Man, $15 million. So what does it get you? Not Floyd Mayweather, but Regis Prograis. So not Ryan Garcia, not Shakur Stevenson, but it might get you a Sky Sports Network deal, to be fair. So he's fighting Regis Prograis, who, respect to Regis, fun guy to talk to, deep thinker, was a champion at one point, but man, I saw him almost get knocked out by Jojo Diaz, who is well past his prime. Jojo was a featherweight and not a big puncher at 130 or 135, and he had Regis Prograis on skates in Chicago on the Kenneth Sims Oscar Duarte undercard. Regis is a career 140 pounder. Zuffa takes him. Zuffa says, we got 8. We're going to do the 9 traditional weight classes now, not 8. We're going to keep cruiserweight because the first guy of true relevance we got, outside of my boy Robert Merriweather Jr. and a few others, is the first champion relevant guy we got was Jai Opataya. So cruiserweight stays, along with the 8 original weight classes, unless we spend $15 million on Conor Benn to fight Regis Prograis, in which case it will not happen in any of the 17 weight classes or 9 weight classes. It will happen at 150 pounds against a career 140 pounder and a guy coming off his best win at 160 pounds. So, but it was enough to make Edward Hearn cry. And maybe that is what the $15 million might. So this is my take on it. Dana White said he went to Sugar Daddy and he's like, Daddy, I'm going to give him an English accent now instead of Eddie Hearn. He's going to go, Daddy, this man is talking bad about me. He's talking bollocks. Make him shut up. Because Dana's like, man, these dudes in boxing, they can talk pretty good. You know what? I don't feel like going insult, retort for him. I want to take one of his favorite toys. And so he got on the phone with Big Turki, Al-Sheikh, and he goes, Turki, come on, man. I don't feel like going band for band with the shit talk. I need money. I need money, Sugar Daddy, and I want Conor Benn. And he says, you got it. You got Conor Benn. I told Eddie Hearn to his face I would fuck him one day, and now it's the time to fuck. So he went ahead and sent Conor Benn his way, and this is what we got. What do you think, Raheem?
The one thing I was right about in all of my predictions of how this Conor Benn thing was going, when I said it would be 54 with Mayweather, the comments exploded. Well, the Zuffa boxing doesn't have a 54 division. There's no way. Well, it can't be Mayweather because there's no 54 division. So clearly it's not that. They don't give a shit about any of that. They don't care about sanctioning bodies and how many belts there are, because we're about to watch Opataya defend his title on a Zuffa show. We're about to watch Conor Benn fight. Well, where's the 150 division? Since Zuffa doesn't recognize the 154 division, and who recognizes the 150 division? Am I missing an era in boxing? Was that a thing?
Manny Pacquiao against Antonio Margarito. And the WBC got their 3%.
Was that a title fight at 150?
It was technically a super welterweight title fight.
And it was the WBC.
It was, of course it was.
So I guess what we've learned then, Sean, is that Zuffa is recognizing the WBC weight classes. That's the news of the day. That Zuffa is now taking the WBC weight classes on as a part of their introduction to the new way Zuffa does business in boxing. None of it matters. What we are now learning in real time in boxing, if you didn't know, that nothing is real. Nothing is real. There is no loyalty. There is no integrity. There is no soul in the sport that the fans and the pundits and the boxing elites can rely on nothing but the bottom line to dictate what happens in this sport. Now, some could say that's old news. You knew it already. But there are those of us who are true believers. There are those of us who have had our heart broken time and time again, but yet still reached for the greatest ideals. Still thought that this sport had a soul and had really an overriding, undergirding set of principles that, when put to the test, would hold and stand and bear the weight of any type of corruption or too far stray from its path. Right now, all of that is being tested in real time, and we are found wanting.
Should we call it junior light middleweight or super middle welterweight? The 150-pound Zuffa division.
We should call it wait and see. Let's wait and see what's next. What are they going to do next? This isn't even about Zuffa, man. Like, this is about what's happening in the sport as a whole. And what boxing has always been is a bellwether for what's happening in the world. You want to see what's happening in the world? Take a look at the microcosm at what's happening in boxing. It's an authoritarian time. It is it is a time when it is completely boiled down to the concentration of power and authority. Who has it and who doesn't, and who has it makes the rules, and who doesn't makes the complaints. It weight class is going to be this or that, or sanctioning bodies and the new belt and the old regime and the new regime, and who deserves to be in what position, who's mandatory, who's. Listen, all of that is fantasy fairy tale stuff, and it is just continuingly proven that that those guiding lines and principles and ethics are, if they ever were sincerely in place, they're a thing fast becoming the past. That's just what it is. You can't make sense of $15 million for Conor Benn versus Regis Prograis unless, and this is the spin on it, that could be the case, in fact, that maybe what we are missing is this fight actually isn't the $15 million fight. There is some talk that there is some contractual obligation that Conor Benn had after the rematch with Eubank that Turki has leveraged into him fighting this fight against Prograis to fulfill that obligation. And the next fight will be the $15 million payday, and that opponent yet to be named. So while they say it's a one-fight deal, this is a fight that fulfills a past deal. And the new deal starts with the next fight. Possibly it is the fulfillment of an old deal that now is being honored, that was agreed upon in the rematch with Eubank, that there would be a fight that Conor Benn is obligated to do. And His Excellency has excellently leveraged that fight into this fight and to fulfill that obligation before the $15 million fight kicks in. So while they call it a one-fight deal, this is not that fight. The next fight will be the fight that is the deal. And that opponent has yet to be named, of course. And that is the big show that Conor Benn is being brought on to potentially headline for that kind of money. That is entirely something I heard off the record from somebody who's off the record, and I can't substantiate that as true, but it would make sense because what we're looking at right now doesn't make sense. There's not $15 million in this fight if they split it. Certainly not for a chief support. Like, this something else is afoot. Certainly not this for $15 million. Not to mention that what is Regis Prograis getting? Whatever he's getting is on top of the $15 million that Conor's getting. I don't think it's for this fight. I think that there's something else at play, and we're going to see Conor Benn in another ring show that he will headline that will make this payday make sense.
Well, I mean, it was reported by, reputable people like Dan Raphael, that it is a one fight deal for $15 million by Zuffa. And if Zuffa's promoting the show, and it's reportedly a one-fight deal, then maybe this is it. Maybe the reason why it's Regis is Turkey saying, all right, I'm already burning this money. We burn it up. Well, who's an opponent we can get at relatively inexpensive compared to putting him in there with a Shakur Stevenson or someone like that? Like, maybe that's what it is too. I don't know. Just
But this is Zuffa and Ring, though, right? This is Zuffa
yeah,
and Ring.
yeah.
So maybe it's a ring obligation that he's fulfilling, and they're just being a little too cute by half. And you'll then hear after this fight that there's another fight that is the actual Zuffa promoted fight that they paid for. That technically, you know what I mean, it's a Zuffa fight, but we all know who actually paid for it. And that will become the one fight. And right now, we're just being misdirected into believing that this is that fight when it just doesn't make sense for it to be. Just doesn't make sense. Like, this is a fight that Eddie could have made. This could be a main event at the O2. This could be a main event at a smaller venue in the UK easily. Uh, but again, there's no way in my mind that this is the $15 million fight they're paying Conor Benn to have. I'm expecting there to be some news after this fight that makes this all make a lot more sense.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see. I was tempted to your point about who's really paying the, funding everything, and it's remember, Saudis own 60% of Zuffa Boxing, right? And it was interesting that Mark Shapiro had to clear this up and go, Turki Al-Sheikh is the one paying for this because a lot of their UFC fighters are like, oh, what the fuck? We got, like this is more money than all of us make. And you just got an almost $8 billion contract with Paramount. We're not sniffing that kind of money. And, who's Conor Benn? And but he had an outline on a conference call that indeed this was Turkey funding the purse. And it was interesting. He also talked about hitting benchmarks to eventually get that company to 50-50, which me and you wisely told me right away, ain't no such thing as 50-50. So if he's talking about striving for 50-50, that means he's really striving one day for them to have a majority stake of Zuffa Boxing. Now, I was tempted, but felt it was maybe a little too corny and low-hanging fruit. Pedro Martinez, okay? I'm a Yankees fan, as people can see in the background. They, too, like boxing, were once glorious, but have seen better days. But in their heyday, they went against the Red Sox, and Pedro Martinez, who was like the best pitcher in baseball, he got flustered one day in a press conference that had a famous quote about the Yankees. He goes, "What can I say? The Yankees are my daddy." And then every time Pedro Martinez would come to the mound in Yankee Stadium, they would go, "Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?" So I was tempted to share that and ask Dana and Zuffa when it comes to Zuffa Boxing, "Who's your daddy?" But I didn't tweet it. I saved it for this instead. So there you go. As Eddie Hearn says, a pappy. And as you said, they're all sharing toys in the playpen. And Dana said, "Dad, he's being mean to me. Give me that toy." And Dad said, "Here you go, son. Here's the toy." Eddie, you stop talking to your brother that way.
Is it possible that Regis Prograis beats Conor Benn
No.
and really throws all this thing into a tailspin? I mean, here's the thing. I know he's not the favorite. I know that
possible. Anything's possible.
So make the case for me that could convince someone that Regis Prograis beats Conor Benn.
All right. I mean, maybe Regis's power carries up to 150. Fighters that make a weight class for a very long time. Regis has been there at least a decade in the 140-pound division, if not longer, off top of my head, without box rec right to my screen. And sometimes moving up in weight for a fighter helps them. And Conor Benn, it remains to be seen, can he retain his form coming back down to the 10 pounds from the 160-pound division. Maybe that saps him of something he showed in the second Chris Eubank fight. When he was last seen at welterweight, he went the distance with Pistol Pete Dobson. His power didn't look impressive in that fight. So maybe sucking back down and, you know, anything's possible. As Kevin, anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett once said. So yeah, I mean, Regis, he has heavy hands. Maybe he feels a little bit better at the weight. Maybe Conor Benn is overrated, which some people suspect, and maybe some of that strength and explosiveness is sapped from him a little bit, coming back down 10 pounds. So there you go. I don't
Now that
suspect
is
that'll be
not
the case. I think Conor Benn wins, but
that is not Sean Zatel's prediction. That is not his breakdown of what is likely before you people have selective hearing. I asked him to make the case for what could be possibly a massive upset if there was going to be one. The case I would make is far more speculative in pop psychology at best. So, what I think about though is how much time Connor spent having to deal with the emotion of being considered a cheater, of having to constantly try to convince the fans and everybody in boxing, whether it be promoters, network, pundits, and probably the people closest to him alike, that he was not, in fact, a cheater, that he was not a liar, that he was not a bad guy. And I saw the emotion that took out of him and the dark place that it took him mentally by his own words uh, to the brink of suicide. He said that's how important it is for him to feel that he is seen as a good person, that he is believed to be somebody with integrity who would not cheat, that he was maligned by a faulty test or eggs or whatever it was that ended up being the creation of this situation for him. And the idea that people didn't believe him or didn't any longer respect him or didn't regard him and his integrity took that much out of him. The criticism now for the way that he has come onto this card on Zuffa, the way that he dealt with Eddie Hearn and leaving Matchroom, the way that his image, when just having been repaired, has now been damaged, and maybe this time truly irreparably, could play on his mind by the time this fight comes around. Could create a different type of guy. Now, I don't know if that makes a diminishing fighter. Maybe, as Chris Eubank rightly predicted at the press conference, talking about himself first, I'm the bad guy. You're the bad guy too. You just don't know it yet. You still think you're the good guy. I'm paraphrasing. But he was telling Conor that he'll never be the good guy again, and this isn't a bad guy versus good guy fight, him and Conor. It is two bad guys facing each other. And now I think it's likely that Conor Benn gets booed to the ring at Tottenham Stadium. It's likely that this drumbeat about his integrity and loyalty and all this stuff doesn't stop between now and April 11th. And in the moment, he is telling himself he did the right thing for his family and this is all just business and he wants Eddie Hearn to still be a part of his career going down the line and feels like this may all wash over. If it doesn't, he may, like one day Chris Eubank did, embrace being the bad guy. He may turn heel and become the villain voluntarily. Or it may be an extra weight on his shoulders because he didn't expect this type of response from his action. He thought that he was going to be received well, having made a good deal, made money for his family, gotten on the Zuffa show, gotten on Netflix, done a deal that will enrich him, maybe twofold. I would like to see how this emotional guy with a clear tethering to his integrity and his image and his brand plays out in this adverse environment that I don't think is going to stop between now and it might reach its climax on April 11th when he hears resounding boos from his hometown fans.
Gotcha. Not that he gives a shit about any conscious about whatever. The guy who went to bat for you and sacrificed a bit of his reputation going to bat for you about your steroid scandal, your PED scandal, I should say. But maybe he won't be able to handle being booed by 50, 60,000 people in his home country.
Yeah, maybe he made that decision thinking that he'd done nothing wrong. Maybe he didn't do anything wrong. I'm not
Right.
even making a moral judgment on that. I'm just
Right, right.
saying I don't think that he expected the reaction to be what it was. And I don't know if the reaction remains what it is and potentially even escalates because this fight isn't a super fight and it's a bit of a disappointing announcement based on what we were expecting out of a $15 million payday, if this in fact is that, that it's going to be a factor because he does care about that. And I think he wasn't expecting this to go the way it did in the way of publicity, PR to his brand, and what people were questioning about his integrity and loyalty subsequently. And Eddie Hearn played it like a fiddle. I mean, he was choking back tears. I mean, he became a sympathetic figure in all this. And that might be hard to accomplish by any promoter. So that means, and I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, from just experiences and conversations I've had on the roads in London, people really do see it that way. This is not some media fabrication. People are very upset with what they see in what Conor Benn did, what they maybe are projecting onto it, or what they are associating with in their own lives. They are taking this personal. And I think he's going to take that personal.
Well, that's relevant because the fight is over there. But I think outside of that pool that you're talking about, most people don't feel bad for Eddie Hearn. You know, from fighters to most media outside of the UK, other promoters said, "Hey, stop crying," like Oscar. Dana called him soft, which I understand why Dana's saying that. So, but if you lose to Regis Prograis, it's just because. Oh man, let me just have fun here, audience. Okay, Conor Benn will whoop my ass. All right, all these guys will whoop my ass. Or it takes a warrior of some ilk to just get through the ring, especially in front of 60,000 people. Now that I've given you the respectful preamble, if he loses to Regis Prograis, maybe it's because he sucks, bro. To quote Paulie Malignaggi, it's cause, no, but jokes aside, it's because he's not that good. If he loses to a faded Regis Prograis at 150 pounds. Now, I don't expect that to be the case. I think he's sharp and explosive. Not as I don't know if he. I wouldn't pick him to beat Shakur. I wouldn't pick him to beat Devin Haney. I wouldn't pick him to beat Ryan Garcia. I wouldn't pick him to beat a number of guys. But when he's in his top form, he's sharp and explosive and a good fighter in his own right. So I think he'll win. But if he loses, it won't be because he's being booed. It's because he's not that good.